You're listening to Mama's Garage Podcast.
Shannon Adams.
We're not.
we're being formal here.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's very. Yeah. No one's on the clock. It's July 4th. We're all right. Actually, I think I should just leave this in the episode.
Please do.
I will. Yeah. Welcome back to Mama's Garage, everybody. I'm in Shannon and Dave's house. You may know them as Mr. Knuckles and Mrs. Adams from the high school, and now they're getting all embarrassed once I press the recording button. Don't worry, we have questions. I'll keep the truck rolling along and all that. But we were talking about COVID a little bit so far.
We talked about COVID.
Yeah, you had that down to a science.
An absolute science. An absolute science. So I taught 3 different kinds of high-level hands-on life science classes. There's a lot of labs that you do in those classes. A lot of 3-dimensional modeling, and kids really like doing those things. And so I had an entire system designed to ensure that the likelihood that a kid would get contact traced out from doing hands-on activities in my class was very, very, very low. And
do you care to explain how close you were to just,
I was almost perfect. We did have a lab one day, and the student shall remain nameless for privacy reasons.
He's been on the show before. It's fine.
But one particular day, so when we did labs, like everybody had I called it zippered. So like the front chunk of kids went to the right side of the room, and then the kids behind them went to the left. And so it all split like that.
That makes sense.
So that meant that on the sides of the classroom, there was like at least 8 feet between each lab group. And then that way you weren't clotted around each other, and if they stayed at their tables, then they would have been close to the lab group behind them. So it was just a way of like, how can I keep the smallest amount of students in a group
how much can you control the environment?
Right. And so it had worked all year. And then a student who shall remain nameless for privacy reasons
someone can do the math.
Come in and do with the COVID, and so that wiped out one of the lab groups that day. But other than that, there was no kid that contact traced out of my classroom the whole year.
So what was it like to go from your class to Dave's class? Did you do the same type of thing?
As she was talking, I was thinking about teaching geometry and just. We definitely don't do as many labs in geometry, but one day we needed colored pencils for something. And so the day before, I went and I took my huge box of colored pencils where normally you just have kids go and grab what they need.
Right.
But made individual baggies of colored pencils for kids to use. And then you put them away, and
you waited 3 days.
The next set of kids could not use the same pencils. So you had to have...
You waited. So I had fine tip, broad tip markers, crayons, and colored pencils. I had 4 separate things, and there were baggies of everything, and it sat in a bin. And then you could go get your stuff, and then when you were done with it, you put it all back in the baggie. And then on the other side of the room, I had a rotating bin cycle. So if you used, I'm serious, I was ridiculous about it.
Well, yeah, but
you're trying to protect
preserving
people.
the education of the youth.
Correct. So if your stuff had to go in the Thursday bin, and kids knew you couldn't. Now you could use the Thursday bin, but not until Monday. And so they knew what the cycle was, because at that point with COVID, we thought it lived a lot longer on the surface than it did. And the rule was everything had to be cleaned, or it had to be in isolation for a certain amount of time.
All those germs die, right.
Right. So there was a whole cycle to the Thursday bin, the Tuesday bin, the Monday, and it just rotated, and they all just figured it out.
Yeah.
Because, they knew the rules.
Well, because I never had either of you in class ever. I just knew Ian. This is basically how it worked out. Because I just dodged any sort of college class besides U.S. history, but I'm the only one in there who didn't sign up for Ivy Tech credit, because I was like, nah, I'm gonna be a rock star with the radio show.
Right.
Yeah, give me a GED and I'll just get out of your hair. So that's kind of how I went about it. I made sure I kept good grades and respect and all that, but I was just like, I don't need to do that, then I'm good. But I did feel like I missed out. Because I would have, because I was in band a lot of the time during COVID, and that was no rotations, none of that. Same drumsticks we used in 2017,
Do you remember the special masks that the choir kids had to wear that had the openings?
So they could sing.
I forgot about that.
Weren't they awful?
Yeah, it had like Cyclops mouth where you had like peel them back. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
Well, because we would do drumline this was 5 years ago now. Yeah, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Because I'll be 20 soon, and I was 14 when COVID happened. But we were like, we'd be out and like we would have to do it. Drumline's fine because we'd just be 6 feet apart no matter what. But we were wearing masks outside, and I was like, at that point, we were all just like, dude, we hang out after. Like, what are we doing? So it was all just like, it just felt overdone. But it had to be protocol. So I can imagine how stressful it was. Were you guys a part of the meetings into like how to plan for everything going into it? Because there was like there was March until like August. There was no school, which is like doesn't happen.
I was, because of my role with being the president of the union. And so usually it would be, generally what happened with that is the district worked on what the safety plan was based upon what the Morgan County Department of Health, State Department of Health, and then what the Fed was saying. And then they would design a plan that they felt was the plan that was least likely for kids to not be in school. So the thing that would keep as many kids involved as possible.
Yeah,
and then they would update me kind of on what their plan was because it impacted teaching staff. And so because there was a that's a safety issue for employees. And so
because if teachers are out, then that's because you can't throw everyone into the sub room unless it was like
that was the thing,
or
like
teachers with health issues.
Yeah, right.
And
compromised,
with compromised immune systems. The only times I've ever gotten COVID, I was exposed at work. Like,
damn kids.
Right.
The first time it was a staff member.
Oh, was it you?
It was not Dave.
Was it Dave?
We never got COVID
Although
from each other.
I had COVID fairly early on. I got it from coaching basketball.
Okay.
But then Shannon and Ian never
got
it in
Wow.
that round.
And
you guys are a healthy family though, so just just tight, just like you guys had immune systems in this household. Even Roscoe. Roscoe's on the pod too. He's chilling. Roscoe's a dog, by the way. It's not their other son. Not
a little person.
Not everyone knows. Yeah.
No, the only time I ever caught COVID was being exposed at work.
Wow. Well, I think I had it twice, but I can't remember the first time I got it. I definitely he shall remain nameless, but I was definitely in sync with the time you had your lab got taken down.
When I had the contact trace out.
Yeah. He wouldn't care, but just let's entertain that idea that it's just
If he were to self-disclose.
Right, yeah.
It makes it more mysterious.
Yeah.
Like that,
Who is the mystery person?
That's right, because it gives everyone else a reason to go back and listen to stuff,
right.
which opens my views. So honestly, this is good for me as well.
Look at this.
Go from 5 to about 7. That's awesome. For now, these are gonna be time capsules of anything.
They will.
Yeah.
They will.
Well, this has been 8 minutes already. That's good. That's a good little intro about COVID. Because that's one of the questions I had on here. Because I had plenty. I just want to make sure that there was plenty to discuss.
Yeah,
Because
I think just one more thing,
go ahead.
COVID-wise, is it showed or tested the creativity of like how to problem solve and how to work around solutions. And like for me, if a kid got contact traced out, I'd rigged up a system where I had a webcam set up in my classroom.
Oh, I did.
And kids could zoom in and just watch an entire.
That's actually funny you say that, because the year after COVID, my junior year, I got mono, and I had to take a U.S. history class online, and Dr. Peterson had the camera up. I didn't realize my camera was my monitor was being shown, and so I was texting someone in the class, and they could see me. I don't know if they could see them. So, middle finger went up, and then Donna was right there. She was like, Luke, I saw that. And I was like, oh, it got a good laugh. But, oh well. But then also the red light, yellow light, and green light status. Well, that was.
Yeah, that was like, okay, so, oh my gosh.
Because there were cohorts as well.
So at the high school, there was red and blue days, and then there was
an A and B cohorts. I feel like there was like 4 different combinations of things that could be happening.
Yes.
And it was all during red, correct? Or maybe red was they're sent home. This is yellow.
Yellow was if you were in person. Like one cohort, I think they stayed home.
Yes.
For a while, but the other kids could still come in.
Yeah, it felt like how kindergarten was, where you go like half weeks or something.
It was weird. It was weird, but the whole point was to not have a mass infection rate at the high school. and to keep kids in school because they still had to like work with all the rules.
Right.
It was definitely intricate.
Because Wednesday was no kids in the building, and then one group went Monday or Tuesday, and then the other group went Thursday or Friday.
And that was intentional too because it gave you more time between like kids being exposed to other kids.
Right.
And so the whole point of that was to just decrease contact tracing as much as we possibly could. You know, something that I'm going to bring up about COVID that is not funny.
You're smiling really big right now.
I am because people don't talk about it. So on Wednesday, as a teacher, teaching during COVID was awful.
Teaching, yeah.
It was awful because kids were just worried and sad all of the time.
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah,
I hated it. It was like my least favorite time to be alive ever.
Your workload doubled.
Your workload as a teacher
because
doubled.
you had to post everything online.
Yeah,
and
that's
do
one of my other
lessons
questions.
and-
Because I've asked other teachers, they were just like, whatever. I was like, sounds like, because the grade point average probably dropped in your class then. But like if you're doing doing your job right, you have to do.
You got to do all
You
the
got to
things.
be two places
right?
at once. Yeah.
Right.
And there were at least 3 or 4 Wednesdays because like you guys weren't in on Wednesdays,
No,
but the
yeah.
teachers were still all there doing the work. And like if you're I don't know. I think if you're a teacher, the best part of your day is getting to hang out with kids. Like you got like kids are the reason I went into teaching because I think teenagers are neat. And like
yeah, well, it's pretty like impressionable time. And you can make a lot of good
you can
difference
make a lot of
too.
impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of impact. And so there were at least 3 or 4 times I went into my neighbor teacher's classroom, and you know the science tables, like they're 4 or 5 foot science tables,
I
right?
took a lot of naps
and
on those.
I laid down on them and cried.
Aww.
And then sometimes she came into my room and like did the same thing because we were so like.
I believe I had her.
You probably did.
Miss K.
Miss
Yep.
K.
We'll keep
yeah.
her, because I can't say her whole name.
But yeah, I mean, there were like it was absolutely stressful on teachers too because you're trying to do everything you can to be as good as you can for a kid. No, there's no training. Nobody taught us how to teach
No one
during
knew
a pandemic.
Of course. Also, pandemic is much more of a popular word than epidemic is now because everyone kept calling it an epidemic at first, and then I was like, what does pandemic
Right.
mean?
Like
Now everyone knows what that is, but yeah, I don't want to do that ever again.
no, it was awful. And so now it would be, not that I would ever want to do it, but now it would be easy, right?
because
you've
we've
done
been through it. Right, yeah.
And, you know, and like I have some obsessive compulsive issues, Luke, and I have some control issues.
Sure, but that's also a strength and a weakness.
It is. It's both. But like for me, it was always like there had to be a video and there had to be this kind of interaction. And then I wanted all of these different kinds of
videos,
interaction.
though? Because, all right, listen.
And then we had to Zoom too because I wanted us to talk about it. I was doing all of the things, and Dave did that too. And you're trying to get creative and keep kids from being bored.
Yeah, for sure, because it's so hard to just because also we're doing school from our bedrooms, and so that's where I lounge. You know, that's where I would.
I saw a lot of hats or like blankets over heads eating Lucky Charms, but I didn't care.
Yeah,
you know, because I knew that kid was always going to do that, and it just made us all laugh. Right, we all just laughed at it, and so there were new ways, like, but still just. Relationships with kids were like one of the most important things for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And so
without that in-person contact, and that becomes much thinner. Yeah.
And it was surprising. My kids came to my Zooms. Like I would hear from some people are like, "Oh, the kids aren't coming to the Zooms," and I'm like, "Gosh, like 80 to 90%."
Sounds like I should be trying
harder. Like my kid, but I think it's because for me, it was like I would describe that classroom as a family. You know, like with kids.
Yeah, because I heard about you first through the guy who should be named nameless, because they were older than me in school, but they were always like, "Yeah, dude, we had so much fun in Miss Adams' class," and I was like, "Who is that?" And then I never found out, through academically. Then I was like, "Oh, I know Ian." Yeah. So yeah, I've never heard anything but just pure joy out of your students, and so
super sweet.
yeah, absolutely.
The honor of my life to work with kids. Honor of my life. One of the 3.
Yeah. So I forget if I had anything else because we talked about the cohorts and the different days, the online stuff. Because I just knew that I hated doing online school because I was doing classes, but then I was also trying to do like the academic honors at the time, and so I was going to sophomore year. I didn't have a Spanish or ASL before, so I had to load that in there as well. Which I'm like, that's just one more online class I didn't want to do, and I just without someone watching over me, I just didn't do ASL until I had to. So until again, F's weren't, that just wasn't going to happen in my house. And so I got out of that with a C-. I don't know how I managed that.
That's all you needed,
That's
though.
right, yeah. I don't know how I figured it out, but I feel like they threw me a bone for that. And then I changed my foreign language to Spanish. That was an Apex class, though. Didn't do that either. So I was like, maybe I should just stick to learning English. Maybe I should get better at that. So I did that instead. But I just remember like how hard it was on us. I was like, I can imagine how hard it'd be on teachers because like this is your job. You have to clock in and everything. And yeah, so that just, I'm happy that's over. And also what happened during my sophomore year because certain, their senior year just got plummeted.
They lost it.
Yeah.
Like so if you're in round 1, right, when they actually closed the schools down, those seniors, I mean, someone in town like was able to throw kind of a prom, activity together. The city, I think shut down a street and like they did it on their own.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, so they were, at least the community was able to give them a prom, but when it came to graduation.
So that would be class of 2020. So
yeah,
the seniors went during March. And then the seniors after, because like they had an even worse senior year.
Because then their senior year, I mean, still like things did not free up until you guys. So class of 2023, your junior year, homecoming.
Yeah,
that's when life got free.
That's
because
true.
Homecoming dance was the first activity where kids you didn't have to wear masks anymore.
Yeah, and because I remember like.
Because you could still get contact trace, but it wasn't as many days.
Some people like weren't even in school till like September because of that. Because like a lot of football guys, I think the football happened like and like everyone couldn't come in because of football. And I was like, oh, jocks, whatever. A couple of drumline guys paid attention. I don't hold any animosity towards football guys anymore. I call them football guys. See how much a drumline guy I am? They're athletes. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
Football people.
Football people.
No, I just remember, certain classmates were just, I was like, where are they at? They're like, contact trace. I'm like, oh, what happened? I'm like, just football. But, because luckily, my the more fun years of senior year, or high school, when you have the freedom, those weren't impacted at all.
Right.
So I also got a little dose of my freshman year being just like how it used to be. And then what was it like to have 4 different principals in a row? Because in high school, I had 4 different principals.
You had 4 and that was something that happened with your graduating class too. So really what happens when you change a principal is it's hard to get, like the first year of a new principal, in my opinion, is like that person's kind of learning the building, learning the staff. Maybe they're tweaking things here or there, but they're not generally coming in, gangbusters with a lot of initiatives, not initiative, but just like their own flavor of what the building is going to be like. And so what happens when you have 4 consecutive years of that's generally how it's approached is it sometimes can be tricky to, one, you're having a hard time establishing relationships professionally, right? Because your leader is changing every year.
And that position kind of makes the positions below, if they're remaining the same, then those kind of guys, like they're going to be, feel like they're going to be climbing the ranks, or like shrinking that gap between a vice and it's hard for I wouldn't say that like you don't have culture in the building, because you still have culture in the building. But I think it's hard to know what your story is. Like, what story are we telling as a building, apart from it's our job to teach our classes and to graduate students, and then there are activities that students have. But that's just the basic stuff. Like, that's not like level.
That's just the surface level stuff, really. Particularly, I think when you're in a school district like Martinsville, where even though we're big, it's still hometown school, right? It's a small town school. So what story are we continuing to tell? But then that kind of, you felt that from the Department of Ed too, because 2 of those years were COVID years, or 2.5 of those years were COVID years. So that impacted all kinds of things too.
Right. Yeah.
So mostly, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when a new principal comes in, you have to assess where your strengths and weaknesses are in the building. And like Shannon said, year 1, they're usually not wanting to make major changes because it's already a big change to have a new person.
You don't also want to upset the whole staff, and now you're like,
the reason that people are unhappy.
And our building, definitely had some changes that needed to be made. Not that it's a bad place or anything that, but you're always striving to get a little better. But then for several years in a row, not only do you have COVID, but then you're just kind of stagnant as far as what what you're accomplishing as a school.
Right.
And principals don't really want to rock the boat until maybe year 2 or year 3, when they kind of get a full assessment as to what's going on and come up with a good plan that they think will make a difference. And so I think just those 4 years, we just kind of
Yeah, it was
showed up, did our job, did what we've always done.
Yeah, because like the first day of school 2019 and the first day of school 2023 is like night and day, because like that was my freshman year and that was the first year after I graduated. So that's so many things happened in that amount of time, and so I can imagine. Which actually that puts one of the first question I had on here was called like it was like your first day, and Mr. Smith in the last episode, he was like he didn't know if it meant like what was our first day of teaching like, or was it like the first day of every school year, how that's different. And so I was like, I answered both those questions. So I imagine like the only thing I kind of compare first day back to teaching after summer break is kind of how drumline season would feel after we'd have like a break off, where I'm like, do I know how to march anymore? Like how heavy is this drum? Just like those kind of things where I'm like, oh, I did do this for several hours as a youth, so it's just going to be fine and stuff. But do you ever like have like that short period of doubt where you're like, have I lost my touch at all? Has that ever happened? At least like early on?
I think early in my career, I would say I went into the classroom wanting to establish like I'm in charge and I know what I'm talking about.
But you guys both do that. I can from just the way you guys will appear in the room, like, oh, this is the person I'm going to be answering to. Like you guys don't have to command that verbally. It's just more of a presence kind of a thing.
But then later on, like now, my first priority, I guess, once you're a veteran and you've been around forever and people know who you are, is like developing relationships with kids as quickly as possible. So it's almost like getting like more technical as because Shannon has a little poster up in her room that something to the effect of kids don't learn from people they don't like.
Whoa.
Yeah, a woman named
I wish I had both of you.
Rita Pearson, an educator. She passed several years ago, but she gave these amazing inspirational TED Talks, and she worked with very, very poor kids in very, very, like just not great inner city environments. And anytime you have a kid come to you that doesn't have consistency at home, and their life just turns upside down a lot, they honestly don't care about your rules
of course,
on pencil sharpening. But kids are also, y'all are smart, and you know who cares about you.
That's for sure.
That kids can tell right away if the person in the room cares about them. And so there was one year that for whatever reason, I just had lost a little piece of that. And it was early. It was like my third year in or something. Like I wasn't, and I was like, man, why am I so weird about my job right now? And it just so happened I stumbled on that TED Talk of that Rita Pearson TED Talk. And I watched it, and I was just almost entranced the whole time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman's like, I soulmated so hard, people talk about.
Do you
soulmate.
think you could send that to me so I can like link it in the description?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, because I love having, sources there. That's awesome. But
what I did was I found just like a meme, like, and it wasn't really a meme, it's her, it's a picture of her, and it says kids don't learn from people they don't like.
Yeah, that's certainly true, because that goes with like drum techs and stuff where I like, gets a lot more of the teachers I've had on rotation have been through that. And so there's certain guys I've respected more just because, I'm like, that's someone I want to be like. And so then I listen a lot harder. And then it also happens the opposite, where it's like, oh, now you have a nickname, and you don't like that nickname. I'm going to keep it up.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well, I hung it next to my clock. I hung it next to the classroom clock.
That's really smart, because they have to look at that.
But I had to look at it too, because see, that's what it was about, me looking at it. And so, because I always broke my day up. Like, you knew we would have 7 minutes of this, and then we were spending 20 minutes on this, and then we were spending 13 minutes on this. And so with my background being in healthcare, I always had to watch the clock, because I always had a patient coming. I knew that we had certain things we had to get in. And so earlier on in my career, I was a lot more conscientious of watching the clock all of the time, not because I wanted to get done with class, but because we had things we had to do.
Right.
And so the reason I put it next to the clock was so that every time I looked at the clock, I was reminded that kids weren't going to learn unless they liked me. And being liked by a kid doesn't mean the kid gets their way. In fact, I bet there are all kinds of kids that would be like, don't mess with her.
That's right, yeah.
But they really liked being in the room. And that's because you like when you care about what you're doing, and I cared about kids, you just figure it out.
Yeah.
You figure out how to be like, I know I can't play with her, but I also know if I need anything, that's the person I'm going to.
How to show interest, but set expectations. And
It's,
like it's all.
Well, because like
important.
the reason why I wanted to interview teachers in the first place was because I had a chance to do it myself right after I graduated high school, and I know what it's like to be in a position. Like, it's one thing to like be in a classroom as a kid, and you grow up doing that. Well, then you're the person, like, there's no one else in the room but me to establish order. You have to like really, I put myself in like just being a student shoes where I'm like, oh, this is way tougher than it looks like. And those who are good at it just make it look seamless. And you can just kind of tell, like, even when I would get new teachers in middle school, I'd be like, you can just tell, like, day one, like, what you're in for the rest of the year. And I've been wrong before, and I've been very, very sure correct about it before as well. But the command and respect part, it's like, my thing was, I was like, since I was like only a few years older than these kids, because I was 18, they were like 11 to 14, right? We were all in school at the same time before, we were all impacted by COVID together, but I looked like this, so they all thought I was 30. So I used that to my advantage.
Good.
And, but I want to make sure they knew that, like, I was like, because I knew, like, because I was like basically an aide, a teacher aide almost, I could be like a little more on their level. Plus I just knew how their brains worked better, because I was most recently their age. And I know, like, social media is a huge impact on that. So we're just like more close and all that. But I wanted to make sure I could like stay like kind of like buds with them, but just know, like, I am in charge though. And so a lot of times I'd let, it didn't go my way, and I had to like raise my voice a few times, which is really out of my comfort level. But I was also in the hallway with all these kids, and it was like right after lunch, and it was like 11-year-olds. And also, I told the story in the last episode, I'll give you the cliff notes. I'm sure we've all been in the room where one kid discovers that moaning is like a sexual thing. It's like, I'm going to be the most original kid ever. No one's going to know what's coming next. They never heard this before. And then you as a teacher are just like, oh my God, right now on a Tuesday. It's first period on a Tuesday. We're not even to the halfway point yet. Let me get to Thursday first. And then, but some kid did that. And the way I handled it was, I was like, all right, one more of those from each of you, but we're all going to do it at the same time. And after that, you guys are getting pink slips. I don't know if we had pink slips, but that's the thing. I had disciplinary reaction, and so they go to the office, or I don't have to deal with it. Give it to the pros. But I said, like, next time we start, because we're drumming in the hallway, and like just like rubber pads. Next time we start, on the beginning of the measure, we're all going to, everyone if wants to, can moan one time. That's it, one time. And then they did. And so it didn't even sound like what you
wasn't
expect.
even any good,
It was just like a wall of sound at me, all high frequencies. And then they were all just like, they shut up though. They were like,
the problem went away, didn't it?
I think so. Until Mr. Belt walked out. I was like, what was that, dude? And I was like, oh yeah, that was, I don't know if the janitor, I don't know. I totally played it off.
That is something I would have done. I would have done that. We did zombie roars one time.
Whoa, what is that?
Like, I mean, I don't remember why we did it, but like the kids came in and they just could not stop. And I was like, okay, we're getting it out of our system. Mm-hmm. And at the count of 3, everybody was supposed to, as loud as they could, roar like a zombie.
Yeah.
And it worked. And we were getting ready to take a test. I mean, they were nervous, so they were chatty.
That would probably, I bet that improved the test scores. If you could do it in both ways, you'd be like, oh, it was cool about it.
Yeah, they got it out.
You get the silly out of your way, too. So you're like, oh, I feel
And then you get rid of the competitiveness, especially from guys who try to outdo, like, who can do it louder.
Yeah, who could, suffered from that.
Who could be more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when the teacher does it, and you just get it all, and you all just do it together.
Yeah, because that's the apex where it's like, I got their attention, but now, then you control it. It's like, all right, let's see what you guys got. After that, it's over.
Yeah, narrative's flipped. Narrative's completely flipped.
You're like, what? I guess I'll just be a student today.
Dang it.
All right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. All right. This is one I wanted to ask was, what's a hurdle that you expected in teaching, and what's a hurdle you did not expect? This might be one you guys might have to think about for a second, because I guess the one that I only know answers that I have been through, because a lot of these questions are based off my experience. But I guess a lot of it was like I knew I had to command respect from these guys, but I didn't know that like they were gonna make me laugh. Like I had to like actually maintain. I was like, that was really like, I'm like, you're gonna be funny when you're older. I can tell you have it, seed plant. You can't like break. So it's like that's a real thing. And now that I do stand up comedy, I'm always wired to just like look for the funny part in the room because I'm always trying to do that, especially at work, and it might get me in trouble sometimes. Not ever like really bad, but it's always like, Luke, you're pushing it. I'm like, but you laugh though. That's what makes me laugh, or gets me excited. But in school, it was like my goal was to make the teacher laugh, and if I can do that, I'm like, class clown crown's coming to me. But then on the other side of that, I realized I'm just putting them through hell where it's like, they have to, I can't just take over the classroom like that. And so that was something I had to worry about because I asked a kid one time, he was like, this is an audio podcast, no one's going to see this, but for you guys, he was basically this tall. And he told me he was 64 pounds. He was 11. Then, there's a child still.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, they make dumbbells more than you. That's crazy.
In fact, I used one last night.
Yeah. And, I don't know, just like if he told me that, I had to like swallow my pride. Just like, I can't laugh really hard, but
see, the nice thing about high school is, a lot of times you can.
Yeah.
Especially if the kid if we get to have this time, and then we're right back.
Yeah.
I have laughed a lot at kids.
Yeah, I think that's
not at them, but like at their humor because they are so. They're so
the
funny.
difference about. Because for most of my career, I taught freshmen and sophomores like algebra, geometry.
Yeah.
But the difference with how you can joke and let things go with the older kids, teaching statistics, juniors and seniors, you can let some things slide there.
Right.
Versus the freshmen tend to.
Yeah,
they can't reel it in.
Yes, exactly.
Quite as quickly as the older kids can.
Like, high school's awesome. We just be funny all day. It's like, who cares about math? Yeah.
Right.
I'm something that I wasn't prepared for or I didn't think about. If that's the question.
Yeah.
Well, initially, I did my student teaching in all honors biology.
Okay.
And then when I became a teacher, I was not working with honors biology.
Because in order to get you typically get like there's certain tropes in an honor student you're going to get responsive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so then I wasn't. And I was working with kids, which is fine. Now, I have two niche markets: high achieving females and squirrely sophomores. Those are the two groups of people that I work best with. But I had to learn how to work with squirrely freshmen and sophomores that did not want to be in school. They thought I was lame until they didn't.
Yeah.
Until they figured it out. Until we figured it out together.
Right.
So disciplining that for me was very hard early on. Now something interesting happened yesterday. Also not prepared for in the good way is that, again, I only had one kid, right? I have a boy. So I think when I talk about high achieving females, right? I'm a high achieving female, so that's who I'm comfortable with. But I don't have a daughter either.
Yeah.
And so.
And I know females are for sure, certainly very comfortable around you.
We're very comfortable. And so ran into a student at Kroger. She graduated in 2017 or 2018. Lovely, lovely human. And talked to her mom for a few minutes. And I teared up. Because there's all kinds of kids I have right now. We're Facebook friends, so I see what's happening in their lives.
Yeah.
And there's all of these kids that are doing all these really amazing things with their careers and their lives. And it was man, I kind of, I'm not your mom.
Right.
I would never try to say that I was taking the place of anybody's mom, so I don't mean it like that. But I got little bits of it.
Yeah,
I got
certainly
little
impacted.
bits.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been certainly impacted because even if it's just even if I hear one thing once, it'll just
rolls around in your brain.
Yeah,
it's never
and
gone.
that's all it takes. And so, yeah, you're totally allowed to take some sort of responsibility for that, even if it's just a small fraction.
It's very neat. It's very neat, to think about the impact that you truly do get to have on humans when you're in education.
I think what I feel like people forget about a lot is that if people just stop becoming teachers, years from now, if since that point would happen, like people would be so different because teachers are just so important to your development because you're just around them more. Like even if like
you spend so much time of your day, like when you think about how many hours you spend with a teacher.
Like especially in like elementary school because you only have one teacher.
Holy cow.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah,
Holy
that's
cow.
for sure a mom for a year.
Sure.
Yeah,
well, and particularly in elementary school, and this is something that would have made me uncomfortable at the time, but now I see it. We were very fortunate. Teachers, they see pieces of kids that maybe home doesn't always get to see because home's not they're not, when's the last time you were sitting around at home and somebody was like, I'm going to teach you blah, 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 blah. Today we're going to learn this thing.
You're just like,
and then like you have to have, how am I going to, the teacher has to make sure the student masters it, and the teacher has to have assessment criteria, and the teachers, if, you're really working hard at building the relationship. But like sometimes teachers we do get to see kids a little bit differently sometimes than a parent. And Ian had an elementary teacher like that. And I am so grateful that happened for him. Because I'm sorry I'm talking about you, but
Ian's in the room,
Ian's
everybody.
in the room.
People are going to know who Ian is.
I didn't even know Ian had a little bit of like school anxiety, which I probably gave to him because he wasn't very good at his math facts. And so I started like hammering him on math facts. And so then I think he had anxiety at school. Like, have I done all the things I'm supposed to do? I didn't know that was going on. But his teacher saw it, and she was working him through, like, navigating that space where he felt uncomfortable. She fixed it. I didn't even know it was a problem.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know it was a problem. And so not like, but think about that. It is a big deal because he was in second grade, and I'll tell you, the teacher is Rita Richards. She's absolutely amazing. But Rita fixed what could have turned into academic anxiety for my kid.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what was happening.
And you just mean like just in that subject exactly, or like
just in general? So like
how to
let it go and not need affirmation on every single little detail of your day, and working through being anxious if you have that time math facts test.
Fair enough. Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Maybe making him a little more.
Well, thanks, Rita.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you, Rita. I know. I need to call Rita because we need to go out and get lunch. We haven't had lunch in a couple months together. She's lovely.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you made a good relationship with her too.
Oh, she's a lovely
fantastic.
human. Absolutely lovely human.
Yeah.
So
I think my biggest challenge that I definitely did not expect, like grew up here, fairly normal, childhood, but how to navigate students who like have daily stressors, who definitely don't have not necessarily don't have the support at home, but like their home life is way different than what I know. And when that kid blows up, like learning how to navigate, because some teachers will just automatically just send them to the office and be done with it. But navigating, there's got to be a reason as to why this kid just blows up. So I've always taken the approach of and this was through trial and error for many years. You don't get good at being a teacher
unless you mess it up
immediately until you mess up,
you
and
mess
then you
up
learn
some.
from it. But how to pull, and it's usually like mostly young men, and so like pulling them out in the hallway and allowing them to be mad. And
right.
like,
Yeah. It's
if
getting it out is a big part.
If they F-bomb you out there in that situation, not necessarily at me, but just in general, you just let it go until they get that out of their system, and you can talk for a minute and get them to reason through what's going on. But just learning how to navigate, because you don't get taught that at all.
They don't
in classrooms, like how to navigate these difficult interpersonal situations that you have.
It has to be a trial and error thing.
And then how we're talking about relationships, if you treat a kid with respect that
Certainly.
way and know that they're just having a bad day and it's not personal, they're not taking it out on you, they tend to come back in your room the next time, and while you might have some challenges, like rarely do you have that big
right
that big
and
blow
they're
up
not going to
again.
forget about that,
And
especially if it's like a one-on-one thing in the hallway privately, because my brother, my brother,
I do.
he and I are.
I love him, by the way.
Yeah, the love is there. We know absolutely. But he makes his own rules a lot of the time. I don't do that. We're just polar opposites in that regard. And so I went through school just like behaving and like not leaving a lot of a mark, like behaviorally. But then because I leave like the Franklin household precedent that he has to go and then like your brother never did this, and it's like, well, Max is a completely different set of cells than I am. With his own,
he is
criteria.
a completely different set of cells, and I bet he's heard that his whole life.
Oh yeah, and I'm certain it's for sure impacted. Yeah.
And I hope that if you were to ask him, that he would say, "I have never even come close to saying anything like that to him."
Oh, I bet. No, yeah, there's no way. Yeah,
I always worked really hard to not. I hope I haven't.
Not compare
siblings.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's hard on kids.
Oh yeah, I wonder if he has because. He's reluctant to come on the podcast. I don't know why. He'll get over that eventually. But like I would, because he and I talk all the time, of course. But it's just and it's fun to watch him grow up because I've known him his entire life, basically my whole life. My earliest memories are just it's like either I was his brother or I was training to be his brother. Because it's like, hey, you're gonna have a best friend come along. I'm like, that's cool. Who is that? And it's like, give him a minute. He's in the oven. So yeah, just I forget what I was gonna go on this, but yeah, the blowing up in class, like because he would get targeted a lot in class, and he would just light like this, like it's true anger inside of him, where he just he would get embarrassed, and he's told like the way he tells a story about Mr. Pratt from the middle school, where one time Mr. Pratt had just like done it in for him, and Max was so he found a way to upset Mr. Pratt in the most like subtle but evil way possible. And last time he told the story, I laughed the hardest I've ever laughed at. I've heard it maybe 6 or 7 times. Max forgot his Chromebook, and they were all going to go to like the computer lab, something like that. And he was like, "Oh, Mr. Pratt, I have to go get my Chromebook." And Mr. Pratt's just mistake was that he let Max go back by himself.
Oh my!
And so Max was in there and took all of his dry erase markers, took the caps off, and then shoved the ink tips into them and put the caps back on.
Oh,
and which
man.
I'm like, I know from I don't think Mr. Pratt ever treated him the way Max wanted to be treated, and I also know that like school supplies is a problem for teachers. That's a big thing. But I'm like, from his perspective, if he wants to be a villain, that's a way to do it without hurting anybody.
Right.
He did it, and then he told me he went back to the computer lab with just being like, I can't wait to find out.
The next time I talk to Max, I'm going to ask him about this story. Or should I not?
Well, it just like, he'll like all blush and like he'll have like that fun smile where he's like, I don't know.
It'd probably be entertaining to hear Max.
Oh, you
like,
got
what
it.
What was going through his head?
Because the way he tells it,
time,
the way I tell it, are just very different. Because he has his own. He's had a huge vocabulary his entire life.
He's gifted. You boys are both gifted.
Well, thank you very
You're
much.
You're welcome. But I think Max is a gifted person, and I think that he is probably really creative, and I think a lot of neat stuff rolls through his head.
One time he just went in the garage and then came back out, and it was like a miniature-sized picnic table he put on made for squirrels. And I was like, "You just did that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I made a bed frame for myself too." I'm like, "Where'd you get power tools at?" He's like, "I found them in the garage." He just finds stuff. He'll latch onto it for just a little bit, and then he'll be done. I find stuff, and I'm like, all right, this will be my identity, like drums or whatever it is, right? But he's had like this whole Rolodex of stuff where he's like, yeah, I used to be into gymnastics. I used to be into bug collecting, did coin collecting, collected Hot Wheels. Now I do thrifting, and I can do skateboard like anybody, better than anybody, just because. And he also, I did flips, just whatever it is, he just does it, and he gets disgustingly good at it, and he moves on. Yeah, he's like,
so he's a Renaissance man.
I guess so. Yeah, a lot of eras.
Yeah. There's a lot of kids that, while they may be challenging in high school, we always know they're going to be fine because you know that they're smart.
Yeah,
you know that they're resourceful, and just because school isn't their thing, or they try to subtly break little rules like consistently wearing the lanyard that you're supposed to wear.
The lanyard
daily.
Patrol. I dodged that.
You did dodge.
But there's so many kids that they're gonna be fine. And
right.
I don't know that all teachers always see that, or if they see them as a discipline issue or whatever the case is. But
as a high school teacher, you guys have to be more aware of that, because in middle school, it's like, oh, this kid, they're going to go to another phase of high school or a phase of school for sure before they're released to society. So they're like less concerned. It's more about molding at that point. But then in high school, it's like, this is the last chance before you get to be
Right.
released. And so it's a way different mode to kind of be aware of that. And what made that very clear to me was one time I was in the Senior Success Center during lunch. It was during the second trimester. And Mr. Carl Wagner did not know who I was. He noticed me in there, and he has no problem with walking over and be like, "Hey, who are you? We should talk."
I don't know you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I was like, all right, well, fine. How do I? We want to talk right now. I'm like, you want to share some apple slices, whatever it is. So I made a reservation to get to do a meeting with him during Arty Hour once, and he has all those college flags around, and so to backpedal a little bit, when I was a sophomore. It was like the end of my sophomore year where I was in a drafting class, and I thought I was going to be an engineer because I have a very good math brain. You would have loved me if I cared enough to go to college classes. But like specifically just like data and like geometry and everything, I'm just very visual. So I was doing like this like AutoCAD stuff where it's like, we're just designing something. But the whole time I just couldn't stop thinking about what I was going to go do home and like go play drums and stuff. I was like, is this going to be what I'm going to be doing forever? Am I just going to be hoping I was doing something else? I was like, I should just play drums. I just focus on that, because people do that. I think I have the ability to do that if I just set my life up for that. And so that was my sophomore year. From then on, I just dodging college stuff. So I was like, if I want to do this, I got to stick to that, because I don't think I need to go get a master's degree in playing a marimba to play a drum set on a stage in Baltimore or something, whatever it is. So I just kind of made sure I just didn't have to worry about the fat of all that. And so Carl Wagner for the longest time to me was like this like college, like I thought he was like the final boss, where I'm like, oh, he's gonna touch me, he's gonna touch my heart a little bit, where it's like, oh, maybe I should take care of my and then I rewire my direction halfway through. And I'd gotten all the way through my senior year at this point without speaking to him. And I was like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I got in there when I was a senior. And I talked to him, and I called him. I was like, hey, I thought you were a college Nazi. I used that phrase on him. And he goes, where'd you get that idea? And I was like, well, you have 1, 2, a million flags around here. Every college in the country. I just thought that you just wanted to push everybody towards that. And he goes, no, do other people think about? I'm like, I came up with that on my own. I don't know where I got that from. I just kind of judged the scene. But then he basically just said to me, he's like, my job is to set people up for the future. I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. So then at the end of the year, I had Senior Success Center with him, and I got to build a really good relationship before I left. And so I think I saw him at last time Pants played. It was in August. It was like August last year, and I remember seeing him there, somewhere around town, where I was playing drums. Like, hey, I'm doing it, making money, paying bills and everything, but I'm doing the thing I want to do. And he's like, that's awesome. I think I saw him at a musical too, and he was just very nice to chat with.
He's
just
a great human.
yeah. Matter of fact,
Very
he's
much
one of
so.
the. I shouted him out last episode. He's one of the reasons why I even wanted to do a podcast in the first place, because before he knew me or I knew him, another sophomore year in that same class I was talking about earlier on the AutoCAD stuff, I'd asked Mr. Dunn a question across the room. And I have a pretty deep voice, very happy to have that voice. And back then I was still kind of in my shell a lot. I was like 15, not really comfortable. But I had to project to get to Mr. Dunn. He's old. And I was like, Mr. Dunn! And then whatever I said, it got Carl's attention, because they were talking. He goes, wow. I was like, are you talking to me? He goes, you have a radio voice. And so I never let that go. One of the things, he'll hear once and just rolls around my head. I was like, yes, I have a radio voice, dude. And so that gave me like a little bit of confidence. So I believe I told him that before I graduated. I was like, hey, I want to make sure you understand. There was a moment we shared. I don't know if you remember. And he's like, don't remember that, but cool. And I was like, nice. But to wrap that all up together, it's just as high school teachers, like, you have a responsibility for all that. And I imagine you just see traits that, like, oh, they're gonna be fine. Like whatever it is that you kind of end on that, you're just like, what? Just turn in your stuff. You're good. Whatever. You passed me, in that regard. So I just what kind of things do you guys do on your guys' end if you notice something like, oh, this is gonna be a problem if they're released? Like, how do you guys think you can change the way you do things to maybe reverse that? So. Not that you get, it's not your entire sole responsibility to do that, like, case by case though, but like, what's something that maybe you've done in the past where it's like, you like, they left your classroom and you knew you left an impact? Have you ever had one of those moments before? Bless you, Ian.
There's a kid I'm trying to think,
that question came up as I said
well, I mean, if there's someone who you don't have a great gut feeling about, you reach out like as soon as possible, maybe cause like whether it's home or whether it's like they need a team of people around them, you know, who do they have a relationship with, what class are they going to next? So maybe if they were in my geometry class and I knew that they weren't great in there, like, you know, you go talk to the next teacher, you talk to their counselors, like how to get as many people in their world to help them out
just prepared
as you can.
I think the other thing to look at, though, there's something else that you can look at. A kid can kind of fall flat in your classroom, but they're figuring it out someplace else.
Okay, yeah.
And so
I've been there before because I'm like, dude, I don't really care about
finding that person.
As
long as they're getting it somewhere, I think it's fine. I remember having a conversation in a specific content area with someone, and this person was very passionate about their content, which I think is great. As a teacher, that's ideal.
Yeah, of course.
But they were also very passionate about all of the work ethic pieces associated with how they ran their class and how that they felt like that it was their responsibility to make sure that kids understood work ethic through the lens of their class, because it made them better, stronger, higher performing people. And that's not wrong unless they're getting that someplace else. And so I remember pushing back in that conversation and saying, yeah, my kid doesn't want to do, because when you're a parent and a teacher and your kid's going through it, like you really get a really great lens on all of the different pieces of,
for sure,
of like creating this like functional human. And so I pushed back and I was like, yeah, my kid gets that with hitting. Like what you're talking about, you know, all of the extra time, the extra drills for skills, the extra practice, the extra doing the things, the work ethic. Like he doesn't need to get it in that classroom.
Right.
Because he's getting it every single day when he works on being a better hitter.
Yeah, because it's so rewarding to work on something that first of all, you love, but also it's something challenging, so it's endlessly compelling as well.
Right.
So you have an incentive to go do it.
And, you know, he got that in a different classroom, you know, because he was more interested in that other thing. And so one thing I keep in mind with kids is, are they just getting it somewhere and they're just not getting it in my space? And that's okay.
That's a very mature outlook. I didn't even think about that.
Are they getting it someplace else? As long as they're getting it someplace else. I have definitely I had a kid one time. Now, granted, I knew this kid's dad and I knew all of the kids and had a good relationship with the dad. But this kid clearly needed to be in top level science classes. Clearly needed to be, he was choosing to putt out. He had absolutely no idea what he was going to do. He just wanted to like lazy his way through.
Right.
And I got wind of it.
It's tempting to do that, but
it's tempting. But it wasn't the best choice for him because he didn't have a Luke moment where he's like, oh, I'm going to work on these other things. Like he was just kind of like, whatever, you know. And so I just marched down to his guidance counselor and had his schedule changed for the next year.
Whoa.
And then I called
what a card to play right there.
And I called his dad and I said, I changed your kid's science schedule because I think they should be taking physics and chemistry instead of this other class.
That's like the new Unos where you can draw like a consequence on a draw 4 card where it's like get a little of that,
dude. And no parent is ever going to argue if you're looking out for the best
I'd be like,
and
thanks.
That dad was like, thank you. He's being entirely too lazy. He won't listen to me. And I was like, well, I just changed his schedule. And so now I've only ever done that once, you know, but you
did it with like, you know, knowing that it was going to be a good impact.
Right.
Yeah.
One, I knew where dad was sitting with where this kid needed to be. I knew exactly what this kid was capable of. He was just choosing to putt out. He didn't have anything else going on. And so, and he ended up thanking me later. He was like, I really like those classes.
And that's like the delayed gratification of that. Yeah. That's awesome.
I know, I knew you were going, trust me, you would have been bored in those other classes. Like, this is where you needed to be challenged.
That does, yeah. Just knowing those stuff already. Because like, obviously every time like a new drumline season would come around, there'd be kids who didn't know what was going on.
Right.
So I'd be like, well, the good part about that is that you get to fortify your foundational skills where it's like, oh, okay, good. And that's another thing I was going to ask, because like through teaching younger kids like the bare essentials of drums, I had to then re-engineer how I approach everything. So like my foundations are like super, super solid now because I did that.
Made you better, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It really did. That's one thing I didn't expect to happen. Where I was like, how did I work on this when I was learning how to do it? And another thing, I'm a very visual learner. And do you guys know, like, there's like a lot of different types of learning. And so did you guys go into teaching knowing you had to worry about, like, because I know if I can identify with a kid more, where it's like, oh, we have the same brain, then you can get through them a lot more, which makes it easier. But then you have to also be like, well, not everyone has this brain. So you have to really pivot and challenge yourself to focus on how they're interpreting everything, which I don't even know how else to do it, because my brain just has like portraits basically, where I could like look at an object and like have like a chore assigned to her. It's like, don't forget to grab my contacts where I go to work tomorrow, or like something like that. But it's like, it's purely visual.
I think that's something that does come up in your teacher education, kind of like knowing that there's different types of learners out there. But just like, how to deal with kids, we were saying earlier that it takes time from our end. So yes, now, we teach a class and we try to present, whether it's a graphic work or not, like something visual to see, more than just I'm taking notes during class and I'm doing problems, but just more ways to look at it. But, just like so many other things, it takes time. And, did I come into teaching knowing that I would have to do that? No, not at all.
Yeah.
But then as you hone your craft, our craft was teaching in the classroom and working with kids, that you figure those things out.
I think that, like, I didn't get decent at that until what I did, and when I say get decent at it, is mean being able to see when a kid needed it done differently. That's what I mean about being decent at it.
Gotcha.
Okay?
All right. Sure.
Because
That's a good barometer for that.
Everything for me, like, is I have a plan. I'm going to go, I have a plan.
Oh, yeah. Organized.
I organized. I have a plan.
Zippers. Other side of the room. Right now.
Rooms.
You whistle.
Wait. There's always a plan.
Yeah.
And so my lesson plans always, there was always a writing component, always a reading component, always a visual component. Like there were different ways that the intelligence were worked in.
That way you touch every single
You're
version
touching
of
everything.
It. That way someone grabs something.
Right. They're at least this will at least work. And then at some point, it was unreal. It was an AP biology. Students who shall remain nameless. It was an AP biology. It was a pretty big class. And what was really interesting is in the units in AP, some would be very reading, writing, lab heavy. Some would be a lot more notes, but then you're building 3D models heavy. It was just kind of how the content aligned and various ways. You try to attack everything from as many directions as possible so that the kids are getting the content. They're not bored in class. You know what I mean? You can keep them going. And this one particular unit we were in, so I had this kid, crazy ADHD, like ADHD off the charts. Worked really hard though. And we had just come off of a unit where that particular student did not perform as well on the assessment. Worked their butt off, did not perform as well on the assessment. Everybody else did. Everybody in the group did.
Darn, yeah, that's.
And then the next unit we go into, and it was all modeling. It was all three-dimensional modeling. It's DNA to RNA, it's protein synthesis, it's how you go from your genetic code to the thing that is you, right? And we modeled a lot of that because it's a lot of cellular processes. And that was the crux. I mean, we had notes, like there was verbal instruction from me, handwritten notes, drawings. There are these things we did called pojals, where it broke it down into steps. So extra reading, writing. But then we were really heavy on the modeling piece in that unit. And I remember that kid pulls an 88% out on the test, which is great.
That's a B plus.
That's a B plus, almost an A minus.
And
good. That was without any any bonus points or anything. And then everybody else in the group, like, they did not perform as well. And I remember one of the peers.
To be that student, though, you're like, dude.
Right.
Check me out.
Right, check me out.
Redemption. I am the spectrum.
Right. And so someone was like, how did you, do so well? And this kid goes, well, we built it all. She goes, I could make it make sense because we built it all in class.
Yeah.
So she didn't need all the words. She needed the things to build the things. And there was just something in my brain that just, like a light switch, I was like, we're modeling with everything now. Because we didn't always model with everything. That was something that I worked in chunks, because it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of materials. And you
Right.
have to find class time for everything as well, too. And you still have all of this content that you have to cover. And from that moment on, I started changing things with making sure there was more modeling in every single thing we did to the extent that I could. And then that student started performing better. And what I noticed is kids that are used to the reading, writing kind of learning, they are terrible at modeling. They're terrible at it.
See, I would hate to have because I'm so used to what I am now. Because I would for sure be like, let's build Legos, dude. Yeah,
Right.
like something I can it's like touching it and seeing it from different angles where it's like, and then I can assign data or information to what I'm looking
Correct.
at. Yeah,
Correct.
I don't know what it's like to have just the
'Cause
Like, I
some
just-
kids are
words.
just memorizers.
Yeah,
and they
I
just
guess,
they just
yeah.
want to memorize everything.
must be.
And can't necessarily apply it. And when you add that,
But modeling makes you
Yes.
apply it. And they had to have 3D movable parts in their model. And then they had to walk me through their model. And then they had to walk me through their movable part and what piece of the thing.
So doing all of that makes everyone stronger.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's what happened. The ones that, and they were awful at it, and they would complain. And I just would tell them that I didn't care, that they were going to do it
I'm like,
because
well,
it was better
it's
for
gonna
their
make-
brains.
That's right, gonna make it better.
And then, within a couple years after that, I had kind of figured out how to integrate it more and at least more effectively. And I still like it, but by then, you know,
Yeah, you've been
that,
through enough times. Like, I know the outcome of this, so
like,
just stay with
just
me.
stay with me. Trust me. Like, I've done this enough. Trust me. And the kids would be like, oh, I hate this part. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but you're still going to do it. Because, and then what I found out, though, this is like my redemption. Some of the kids had me multiple years because of the classes that I taught.
Howdy.
And
Roscoe?
they, they knew the rules. They knew I wasn't going to tell you if you were right or wrong when I asked you a question. You had to have confidence in yourself. Like,
Okay.
so like
wow,
these
so
kids,
many rules. Yeah, it's awesome.
there's all these rules. I'm very much a rule, but they understood how I worked, right?
You're like the Jeopardy where it's like, do you guys answer like a question? Answer like a question this time.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a formal way to do it.
This other student who was in your class graduated with you, and that student said, basically, thank you for making me model stuff, because there were legitimately questions on the AP test where I remembered the modeling that I did, and that made me able to answer the question the right way.
And you're just like, that's why we do it.
That's why we do it.
Give
And
me a hug.
This was a kid that would have been fine with like notes, read the things, answer the questions, study. You know,
Right.
that kid would have been totally fine with that content. But I don't know if the kid gets the score they got on the AP exam if we
Wait.
don't do the modeling.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool.
So you learn about it, but you just because you learn about it doesn't mean you have any idea how to do it effectively. It's trial and error, like Dave said.
Now, last 4th of July, it was the 4th of July, by the way, everybody. You're not going to hear this till like July 24th, probably. It comes out on Thursdays. I'm kind of ahead. You told me on the driveway a year ago that you started teaching in 2002. And I was like, first of all, I had two thoughts. I was like, this guy's old, but also I'm like, I didn't know you were that. I also didn't know you were that old. So like, and apparently you had started right after college and you've just been doing it,
I
right?
started here in 2002. I actually taught for a couple of years before.
Oh, wow.
Before I came here, yeah.
So when did you start then?
Was that Seeger?
So 2000?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I had, like, during, like, 99.
Y2 Dave.
I was an aide for a year.
That was amazing.
I was worried you didn't hear it, and I was like, dude, dang it, no. That's history to me. I was -5 that year, so that's cool.
But I was
That's the clip. I'm making
There
up the
you go.
clip, yeah.
oh my
Y2
gosh. But I was an aide at East
Okay, back when it was called East.
back
yeah.
when it was called East, and then I taught at a school called Seeger, which is out by Lafayette, almost in Illinois. And then I was
okay.
Then I was at Center Grove Middle School for when there was just one middle school,
Okay.
and then came to Martinsville.
I know, too.
Yeah,
And Center Grove, were you covering maternity leave at Center Grove?
because that's when you were talking about worse things that happened in your teaching career. Like 9/11 happened that year. Like
Oh, wow,
that's a vivid
bad.
memory
Yeah.
for me, like how to navigate a classroom.
And were you teaching at that point? Were you doing still in?
Physical therapy.
Okay, because that's how my mom knows who you are. Because I remember she was like, "Do I know?" And then apparently you like broke her back or something like that. Like it was like whatever. It was some sort of deep tissue thing where like you've made a lot of impact because you were good at that. Because we just talked about that Mr. Smith last. Because I think he was in high school. No, he was a freshman in college. Columbine when he was in high school. That was in '99. Yeah, because that just I asked that about because for adults who were alive for there's nothing like that for people my age who were born after, and we would watch the videos every year during school, which were informative, and I always get emotional during those because I just know how heartbreaking that must have been, how scary and just unsure of everything, and just kind of slowed stuff down.
And the uncertainty on that day was just like, what in the world is going on here?
Because like that Monday and then like that Friday, or just like the Friday you thought you were gonna have is probably so different than what you thought you were gonna have on that Monday, because it was on a Tuesday morning. Is that correct? I think
sounds about right.
Yeah.
I remember, I think that's when I was on the late shift schedule. So I worked like 9 to 7 or like 9:30 to 7 in the clinic.
So
I was watching it before I went into work. Like I'm getting ready for work and I'm watching the planes hit. And that whole day in the clinic, like all of the patients, like all of the therapists and all of the patients and all of the staff, we were all just like, why are we here? Like, what's happening in our world? We were all just kind of numb.
Yeah.
I can only imagine
that's
having
how the classroom was. Because, middle school kids, and basically you didn't do anything all day long. You kind of went about your schedule, but a lot of it was just we had little TVs up in our classroom, and you just kind of sat and help navigate emotions with kids.
I guess,
help them process what
right,
they're seeing.
But then you guys are also doing the same thing actively, so all you have is just more birthdays in them to kind of so it's hard to. I can only imagine how difficult that was, and it's like, what was like the next day of school like is that you never hear about 9/12 because the world changed after and so.
Well, I think like pretty much right away, like America went full blown. America, and Toby Keithed it,
Right, yeah. Well, because I remember, I think Mr. Urban was talking about it once, where I think he knew a student who just like was like going to have like a basketball scholarship, and then just like stopped everything. Was like, I'm going to Afghanistan, I'm fighting for the country, and I'm like, whoa, because I was like, I don't have that in me. There's no way. So I'm glad there's people like that who exist who are just willing to just sacrifice and just like, this is what's right,
but I think that's the one time though that, like, as an American, you felt threatened.
We did, and we were really unified. Like I would consider myself a fairly politically tapped in person, and when you're tapped in, like you definitely have the things that you think are the way things should go, right? And so, but everyone in the country, it was all just about, you don't get to do this to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody put their own personal, and maybe, I feel like everybody put their own personal politics aside and their own ideology.
That's awesome, because it also.
We're not seeing that right now at all.
No, of course not. No, not at all. And I think also because social media has like just made everything insufferable.
Ugly.
And I even have struggles where I'm just like, I don't even know if we'll ever be able to care enough to like have just a straight political ideology, because I don't know what's right and what's wrong, and it just feels a lot of it's fake and everything. But I feel like back then, like, because I idolize a lot of because I think about the 90s. I literally had a thought the other day at work where I just have like a routine with myself. I go to my work locker, I walk back to my car. I usually have an earbud in from work, but then I put my earbud in my case early, and I was like, well, no, it's gonna be silent walking back to my car. I was like, that's how it always was, dog. This is like, we're blessed to have Bluetooth, so like let's just remember how cool it is with this little silent walk back. And I was like, this must have been how it been in the 90s, but it's such a young
Freedom.
thing. Yeah,
free.
Yeah,
I was free.
And so I guess like you had to roll. You said that you had to roll the TV, and of which if I say that 20 years, if I have a kid, he's like, what do you mean, just turn it on? It's it's already in the wall,
Yeah.
But but they were on the carts, I'm not that
belted down with like the fancy.
Every classroom had one little TV.
In the corner. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen movies. That's good.
Because we had Channel 1.
Yeah.
And there was this whole.
Yeah, no Hulu. There's no one paid.
Yeah.
There's no streaming services. That's fun. Well, okay. Well, how has technology changed throughout? Because, if you're since 2000.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
My first years, I was keeping a physical grade book, and you had to write everything.
Overhead
I haven't
projector.
heard the phrase grade book.
And an overhead projector that you had to use.
Yeah, like where it has like the you have like the the old math lessons that had like there were translucent
Yeah.
pages, and then they go through the thing and
Transparencies,
then like
yep. And you'd run copies so you could write on there,
Uh-huh.
and then people could
Yeah.
fill in the notes. And
I remember that.
Um,
And now we have smart boards, which sorry about that. That looks like those. If you don't know how to use them, because like a lot of teachers are just like, dude, more upgrades. You know,
Right. It gets old.
and
Uh-huh. This is before Chromebooks, all that stuff.
yeah, while technology makes a lot of things easier,
Mm-hmm. That's if you know how to navigate. You know?
right?
Mhm.
I don't know that it's
And the
'Cause-
effective dose of technology
yeah,
too.
because
Right.
now that
Yes, that's a great way to put
now
that.
that families can see your kids' grades up to the
Mhm.
minute grades, they have instant communication through email,
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, my mom's phone's never not going off.
and so while technology is good, like being a math teacher, it's helped me.
Mhm.
The math side, making drawings and
Oh, for sure, yeah.
being able to use
Mhm.
technology with the kids, but then on the grade book side and the communication side, not a great thing in teacher world all the
and
time.
plus
'cause you
like
get
people are probably cheating
bombarded.
a lot more too. And, like with like AI, like I didn't have AI for
yeah,
you
and
know,
that's
writing essays and stuff.
kind of why the class is set up, why I set up grading structure the way I do.
Uh-huh.
Most of your grade is on performance.
Right.
So like I can't sit with you while you do your math homework
Mhm.
and ensure that you're not using AI to
Yeah.
write your answer to this.
I think when
this
using AI
problem.
for math, I'm just like, have you heard about the calculator app? I'm like,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah, because I'm happy I got out of school when I did, because I just know in a few years, like, it's just going to be so hard to actually, like, plant the seed of like, an idea in someone's brain, as opposed to just being like, well, because I've had, like, talks with my grandpa before where he's like, well, what road were you on? I was like, I don't know. I'm 11. He was like, well, you got to know the roads. I'm like, I'm going to have maps for everyone. What if you don't have the maps? It's like, well, then you know what? You win, Tom. Yeah.
You win.
Yeah.
I don't know what road
Yeah,
I'm on.
yeah, you're right. I don't know. The sun's over there, so it's probably west. I don't know. But it just, we're just so reliant on technology. Like, if I didn't have my earbuds in at work, I'd just be like, I'd just be sad. I'd be like, oh, dude, I gotta do it. I have to do an actual job now. Someone at Open Mic the other day said, if you can listen to a podcast at your job, you don't have a real job. And I was like, oh, man.
Dirty.
Money's green, that's for sure,
But I was thinking about that. We were on vacation last week,
Mhm.
and we both sat, like we were in Niagara Falls in
Canada
the
side.
Canada side.
Canada side.
We know about that, yeah.
But we just sat in a park and read a book for
Wow.
like 4 or 5,
4 or 5
hours.
hours. We both just
It shut everything
Like,
off.
you guys
didn't
don't look
the
like
phone,
Americans. It's
and-
weird.
that's funny.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. Okay. Because
And it was nice to not have notifications or
Oh, yeah,
not,
dude.
have an email pop up or a text or,
Or it's
that
like
you felt
my
like you
eye-
had to respond to.
or it's like my eyes are hurting, but I'm reading. It's like because the blue light's terrible. Well, that's good. I think it is. I think it's very important to turn it off. I've heard people propose this before, how like millennials have people, like younger adults have like smoking is not nearly as popular as it used to be, and so I feel like as I've grown up with technology at my forever, I'm going to be so much more aware of that whenever I have kids. So I feel like technology is going to be, social media especially, is going to become like the new, since like cigarette kind of a sensation, where that's
the
going to
new
be
ugly thing.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like it changed people, and then also you can see it forever, but where it's so new, you forget. Like sometimes I'll scroll down to like a celebrity, it's like first post, and I'm like 2013. I'm like, this photo looks terrible, and like the fashion was different. I'm like, those earbuds have cords on them. What the hell is that? And so stuff's gonna age soon. Like I'm gonna get like 20-year-old Snapchat memories, and I'm gonna be like, oh wow, that's wild. So I feel like even like YouTube videos where it's like, I'll see a YouTube video where it's like 17 years old. I'm like, whoa, but it came out like 07. So, but soon enough, like they're gonna be 20 years old. I'm like, that's too. I feel like data shouldn't exist this long because it just hasn't yet, So I just feel like with social media and technology, and I feel like as a whole world, we have to just understand how sharp it can be, and it can just do a lot of damage.
And yet another thing that we did not expect to have to deal with when we were
no kidding,
Right.
yeah.
being a teacher is
Wow.
how to enforce
And
cell
it
phone
changes
policy.
so often, and so you guys have seen the whole just the rotation of like vines come through. So people are like, oh, or just like quote, it's like LeBron James. Like if you hear a kid be like, you're an FBI agent. You learned like the 2015 handbook, and you're taking it to now. Like this stuff just it just stuff comes quicker and everything. and just dumb, like Among Us was here, and then it went. That was during COVID. I played
Yes.
so much Among Us during
Yes.
COVID, and technology is so hard to predict too. Stuff goes viral that you just are like, why is this popular? I don't
Right.
understand this, and I'm already losing touch where I'm like, I don't care about this dumb.
That is the one
video.
way I feel old is your like YouTube celebrities or your TikTok
Yeah.
people. Like I have no.
But
clue.
also, it's the same thing as that, like, someone I idolize is like someone who's like, who you were an adult before they were even born. It's like as time goes on, you're just gonna have that where it's like the youth is it's just gonna be weird. And so yeah, I'm not that I'm like, I'm climbing up there, oldest I've ever been, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This is
Fair,
yeah,
fair statement.
but the youngest I'll ever be. I just notice things every day where I'm like, I'm getting older. I'm almost 20. I'm like a week away, and I want to make sure I'm prepared for it.
Something to chew on, noodle around in that brain of yours
Yeah.
is, does everyone deserve a platform?
Yeah, no kid. Oh, that should be. Yeah, no kidding. There should be a screening process.
Because think about all of the misinformation, just
Yeah.
the bad stuff,
Uh-huh.
the things
And
that are out
it's kind
there.
of all. No kidding, because there isn't really any other place in the world where everyone can kind of just enter the same. Yeah, that's a great. I hope that's the foundation of the change, where it's like we got to screen these people first. It should be a privilege to be able to do this. Yeah, and it also just took off quicker than people realized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had. I think they knew that they were opening Pandora's box, and they knew that it could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, thanks Zuckerberg.
right.
I've seen the movie Social Network, and I'm just like, this is his fault.
It's good, and it's not.
No, of course, but
It's good, and it's not.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, because my mom will just show me TikToks, and it's like, did you go to bed last night? She goes, 2 a.m. And I was like, why? She goes, well, America's Got Talent is quite entertaining, and it's still on. I'm like, that's true. She goes, I also learned a lot of new recipes. I'm like, there's some good to this. A lot of times where I've just, I've gone to sleep with just laughing really hard about some stupid video. I'm like, I can't wait to show someone tomorrow about this, where it's like, check this out. Or
Right.
I've been inspired by bands, or whatever it is. But there's also just all kinds of also horrible stuff on there. And so I think there'll be ways to navigate around it as whenever I become a parent, because that'll for sure, there'll be a day for that in the future. And that'll probably be I don't know, 25 years from now. I'll have a teenager or something like that. And I'll be like, all right, well, here's how it impacted me. Who knows what it'll be by then, but there's just got to be ways to get around it and make sure. But also there's the other instance where you can't keep them gated off from the world that they live in.
Right.
So you have to slowly kind of microdose the reality over time, but there's no clear way to do that, and everyone's different case by case.
You as a parent just have to help your kid navigate the good and the bad, and be honest and
that's true.
upfront. And you usually when you educate and you don't try to hide things.
Yeah, that's true. Because you always say kids are
People
smart. Kids sense that kind of a thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
I can tell there's more to this than you're telling me. Yeah. All right. Well, how long do you think this episode's been? Oh, you
Well,
can't. Yeah,
I cheated.
Yeah, it's all right. How long did you think it felt? Because we're already an hour 17 in.
I keep sitting here thinking that I'm appreciative of this, because it's not every day that you sit back and reflect on what it is that you do and why do you do it.
Well, that's
And
the biggest reason why. Also, just it's fun to talk
it
to
also
you
it
guys.
also kind of energizes you to know that just this is why I do it.
That's
and,
odd that.
and
Well,
sometimes when you get down, or you're like, it's July already, I have to go back to work in 3 weeks.
but you're like, I get to make an impact though. Yeah.
Right.
A new crop of children. Yeah.
The new crop
Yeah.
of children.
That sounded a little odd, but it's
No, I think
children,
perfect.
children
I
of the
think
corn.
crop of children is
Yeah.
great.
Great. Well, that makes me very happy, because I've been because I know you guys went off where it's like you guys they'll let me go use their kitchen table and stuff, but until I found out I could record at the library, I was like, how do I tell a teacher, I'm like, you want to come to my room? And
You know, my mom's garage.
yeah. Well, there's no AC in there, and that's this is my drums. So what's it like what was COVID like? I don't know how to just. I had to figure out a way to do it in a way where we could meet up together. So this is bringing me a lot of joy as well, and so I plan to. like there's a lot of things I want to do since I'll be in my 20s for a while, for 10 years.
Yes.
Everyone's given that much amount of time, well, if we're lucky. But there's just things I want to accomplish in that amount of time. And then as I gather some wisdom and get better at what I do, I want to come back and then teach, and like later on in life, because I feel like I've done it before and I've had some success, and it's so fun and rewarding to like give someone wisdom and you can see it click. You're like, dude, that's why we're doing this. Like, I don't care about the $20 I might get from this hour and a half long lesson. Who cares? We're all excited about you learning that, like whatever the fill or whatever. Or it's like you see breakthroughs. I'm like, that's so cool. But I feel like the longer I wait until I go back to doing that, the more of a success I'll have with it. And I think in the meantime, I want to just kind of see if I can talk to those who are much more experienced about it. That way I can do my best. And whether that be drums or whatever it is, whatever I choose to go back and teach, I just think it's really cool that you guys have all this insight, and I'm gonna listen back to these later on and stuff, and maybe you guys want to do it again.
Maybe
this was pretty fun.
This
I would definitely do it again.
Great, awesome. Because like it's so easy too. I just we're not even plugged into an outlet. We can do it on an airplane. We wanted skydive.
You're right. We are not plugged into an outlet. You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
We are not tied to the kitchen table.
That's right. We could have walked around and like made it all insufferable to hear because it's like yeah. All right. Well, and my goal was to do an hour 20, and that was an hour 20. But there's a few questions I just, if you guys have time.
Sure.
What were some of your guys' favorite teachers? Because you grew up around here. Did you grow up around here, Shannon?
No, I'm from Southern Indiana.
Okay.
So
I had many from the high school, but like two that really stuck out to me. One was Mr. Mike Maxwell. He taught Spanish, and I had him for first year Spanish and fourth year Spanish. So he might have still been
cool.
He still might have been at school.
I remember
when you were
hearing
freshman.
about him.
I can't
remember.
remember.
Because I think he probably left
he,
right around COVID or something.
Yeah. But as a freshman, you have him in first year Spanish, and he's by the book, strict, hardcore. But then when it's just a small group of seniors in a class, then you see him as a person and see him like interest. And so he's someone. But then he was also a really good basketball player on top of top of that, so that that draws you in as someone who's interested in basketball.
Yeah. Maybe next time we do this, I might have more understanding of sports, and so I can like ask you what it's like to go from coach mode to teacher mode, and how those are like, and how they're different.
And I think, because I was going to bring this up earlier, but just a quick blurb is
go ahead.
Talking about evolving as a teacher or learning how to you're not good at your craft for a long time. And a lot of people come into teaching and seeing themselves on the coaching side of it, because that coaching a sport for a lot of teachers is why they get into teaching,
right?
So they can have
coach,
And for me, I made a conscious effort several years into teaching to see myself as teacher first and coach second, versus coaching being your identity.
Because a guy like me, who was like a music band kid dweller, spent like a third of my high school time in the band hall. Like I probably wouldn't reciprocate well to coach mentality as I would to teacher mentality. That's good that you noticed that, or was able to actively reflect. Yeah.
And so once I started seeing it as teacher is my craft, and it does pay the bulk of your salary.
Yeah.
Like, it really allowed me to kind of flip a mindset. And
and I'm sure there's so many similarities where it's like whether it's like a drill you got to teach someone, or it's like a lesson plan you have, that the fundamentals are the same, and you have to whether it be a mental thing or a physical thing, it all ties together. But I imagine there's for sure there are differences as well. But because when I would go home and play my drum set, I had freedom to do whatever I wanted to do at home. But then I'd go home or go back to school and like play drumline stuff. Like they were all this. It's like someone could just be like, oh, he's playing drums. That's true in both cases, but they're so different in terms of how I approach it. But they built off each other, and I got to get ahead in drumline because of drum set, and then I got to get ahead of drum set because of drum line, and so I got to climb back and forth. So. It's my only analogy, I think, is band stuff.
That's fine. You have one.
It's where I got,
your best coaches, or your best, whether you're giving lessons or so on, if you're a teacher and you know how to communicate with kids and you know how to say things in different ways and trying to get multiple
Kind of
learning
translating,
styles, they definitely translate. But then back to teachers, Mr. Denny Lind was my other guy who was impactful.
Sounds like a butter company, Denny Lind.
He taught just things that wouldn't happen today. So he taught pre-calculus, calculus, and physics, but he would lock the door to the classroom, although now we have our doors locked all the time. But he would
you didn't get
lock
let
the
in
door,
if you were...
and if you were late, he did not let you in.
Dude, all right, bro. That's
and
you have to schedule your bowel movements around this class.
yeah, and it was bell to bell. You just went. There was one time during a passing period where there was a fight in the hallway right before the bell rang. He just shut the door and we just got to work as craziness was going on and somebody was handling it, but and nobody looked out, nobody looked and tried to look at it. It was just, we're in calculus, let's go.
Because calculus is what you were doing.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But he was the strictest, like you would think, just most hardcore teacher. But if you missed a class and you went in and say before school started and met with him, totally different person.
Really?
When it's
So
one-on-one,
you can just turn it on and
he
off?
can turn it on and off. Like so,
See.
in the classroom, it was hard, and if you didn't know this other side of him, you would just think of him as the most evil person that there was.
But then when you do know the other side, you're like, oh, I respect this
So
guy
now,
much more.
yeah.
Wow, that's remarkable.
But yeah, knowing that you can carry yourself two different ways when you need to. But then he was also someone who he played golf.
Just yelling all the time.
And so just another teacher that I got to know outside of.
Yeah, which I think
I'm a student in their class, and I think when you see teachers as people.
Yeah, that's another reason I want to do it too. I was like, these aren't just figures in school; these are, they were my age at one point. There's all kinds of stuff to reflect and learn even further than from whatever the class was. But that's cool. That's cool to be able to turn it on and off like that, because I don't know if I have the ability to do that, or I don't know how I would approach being Mr. Franklin and then Luke. That's a little odd. And then who are some of your favorite teachers?
So I have lots of great moments, and I'm very appreciative of various teachers. But the two that come to mind, they're going to be high school. Well, actually three high school teachers. Two were English teachers, and one was my guidance counselor. She was also the dance team coach. So I danced in high school.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So Shannon Matthews Johnson, she was my English teacher, one of my English teachers. And she's still teaching now. And then we were close in age. She was a new grad teacher.
That's fun. Yeah.
And so it was kind of, she was a teacher, but it was kind of like a big sister relationship for me, which I needed at that time. And we're still friends to this day. She's absolutely a great person.
That's awesome.
Kathy Wrench, and I believe she passed away within the last year, but she was my college English teacher. And Miss Wrench was hard and tough. And kind of the word on the street, is that Miss Wrench didn't like kids, which of course was not true.
Yeah, of course.
But when teachers are hard and tough and kids aren't mentally tough, that's sometimes the rap they get. And she liked me. And so
chosen one.
So it felt like that to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It felt like she saw that I was smart and that I was capable and that I could do hard things, and she was supportive of me. And so I think it's interesting that they're both English teachers and I'm more a science person.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's just how the personalities fell out.
Yeah.
And then Lynn James was my guidance counselor. She coached the dance team, and she was a listening ear for me when I needed one in high school.
Yeah,
and
sure.
What I needed was the relationship piece. I was going to figure out the academic stuff well enough for what I needed to do. But I needed people who were supporting me in other ways. That's just what my childhood said I needed. So if people know if their names ever come up and someone knows who they are, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I think it speaks to like some people need the relationship person, and some people need the person like, wow, this person's tough, but they see things in me, and so
That's awesome. That's
I
really
think
cool.
it's always the story of, that teacher who sees something in you that draws you in. And
Yeah, and I'm assuming these people influence you to be like, I want to be a teacher now, or like.
I did not start out.
That's actually one of the questions of like.
Because I started out in like business classes and thinking that I was going to get some sort of business degree.
Which I hear that so often. It feels like a very broad ideology, but it's like
hadn't narrowed it down,
Yeah,
but took like econ and accounting and
but numbers. You're in the number world. That's cool.
But decided that was not my path, and then kind of fell into educate just because interested in sports and interested in coaching, and started out social studies major with a math minor, and then flipped it later on just because at that time it was really hard to get a social studies
like there
job.
are 80 to 100 people apply for one social studies position.
But
why is that the case?
Not trying to be
honestly,
it's easier.
It's easier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dudes and they're usually men. Not trying to point fingers.
Sure,
Usually
but I mean,
it's guys.
data's data. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually men. They like
I
U.S.
think
history.
I've only ever I've done it. Yeah.
Like they like U.S. history.
That's true. Yeah.
And
I know plenty of guys like that.
You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of an area where a lot of men are drawn. And if you want to coach, and they usually tend to be coaches.
You had to have your teaching license most of the time to coach. Now that's not the case, but then anyway, so switched. I liked my math classes enough and was good enough at it that
it's good you weren't just
switched to know that was where your job is going to be.
Yeah, that's a very realistic approach. You're just like, well, I don't need a fight. It feels like an actor in like an audition room where it's like, I hope all these different lookalikes of me, or it's like, well, you're not the guy, so figure it out.
Gotta have something else.
But then I am licensed to teach U.S. history still.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But I just never did anything.
U.S. history is one of those classes where it's like I would like, not anyone in particular, but I would know someone who I just would expect not to excel in class, but then they would like really latch onto history, and that was the only class I'd never cared about, or like never like, I know the general stuff. George Washington was like number one, first guy.
John Adams was number two.
And then it was there's a bunch more in between. Some are dead.
Yeah.
Most.
Some are better than others.
Some rounds to most. Yeah. What? Yeah. Well, just like history in general, I was just like, man, this, or just like, I'm just never piqued me, but I knew that like the guys who did peak, I was like, their brains are so much different than mine, because I like logic, I like math, and I like especially music and everything. So that makes a lot of sense. I never knew that's how there was a fight to get into social. I was like, who want to do that? That's my idea. But
well, back in the day, I mean, if we go back when Dave was applying in Martinsville, did they ever tell you how many people applied for the math position you applied for?
No.
But it has to be more than 20 to 30. And like now,
you have a whole term.
But I also, one of our, I guess, I don't know, say like a creed or a motto, or something like, you never know who's going to help you out later on. So treat everyone well. And build these relationships, because we have benefited like many times being part of the small town community. And having relationships with people, and they've treated us well. And this was a case, me getting the job at Martinsville. I wasn't a bad applicant by any means, and I wasn't like gifted it, but I knew people, and people had spoken highly of me, and
that's a huge
and
advantage.
So like pretty much when I came in to interview, I more or less had that job. Just because of what you had done in the past, and so on.
That's cool. Great.
But yeah, now with just so how it's changed, for a math teaching job, say you get 20, 30 applicants. When I started, we went a couple of years ago where we had a math position posted. We had 0 applicants.
No, that did not happen this year. This year we had 6 to 8 for the math position we had open.
But
and we had several for the social studies position. We almost 30, which is really a lot because so much has changed in education. But a lot of that I think was happening because with budgetary changes, like the state of Indiana has, I'll say this as neutrally as possible, they are changing the way money moves into public school systems.
Yes.
And also with the state being in a $2.4 billion shortfall. And so that's impacting money. And so a lot of districts around our school district, there's something called RIF, which is reduction in force.
Okay.
They didn't necessarily RIF, but there were people, superintendents were talking to building leaders, not in Martinsville, okay, and saying, we don't know if your job's going to exist next year. You need to apply just in case, because they were having to trim positions.
That's a scary thing to be told.
It's very scary. And
wow, dude.
So and there's like a Facebook group that I'm still in. It's called Indiana Educators United, where people talk about the job cuts that are happening in their
district. That's a good thing that social media brings,
Right, what's happening in your district. Now Martinsville didn't do that. What a lot of places try to do is just absorb through attrition. So if somebody leaves, you reevaluate, can we do without this particular position? Can we trim so people aren't losing jobs? But there were definitely people who, applied for things and they had told me, my principal came to me and told me that my position might not exist next year and I need to have other options. And so I think one of the reasons that we had more applicants this year is just because other districts were tightening their belts so much. And
where either one, they might lose their job, or two, schools aren't. So if someone retires, schools are just absorbing that position. So there weren't as many job openings out there as there have been in the past.
So that helps get more applicants in your door. But education is a very interesting time to be in public education from a budgetary standpoint. And how is the state going to move forward, and how is the Fed going to move forward with what they think about?
So many inner workings. Yeah.
A lot.
Just do your homework. These people are working real hard. You guys, if any students, just turn it in. Come on.
Life's hard for them. Please try.
Yeah.
School's really not that hard if you
just do
no,
it.
I
do it
with a little bit of effort.
There's one of our visual texts from marching band would always be like, just be like, it's so easy to graduate because if you guys can't because it's like you don't keep your grades if you couldn't do marching band. So he's like, just making sure he pushes that. He's like, just
do it.
Turn it in. Just turn it in.
Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really don't have it out for you. Just
right.
Do the work.
Right. Everyone's just doing their job. They have to be here to pay for their stuff, and you have to be here because the state says so. And it's honestly going to do you some good. Learning everything.
In general, it's good to know how to read and do some basic
math.
Yeah,
I benefit a lot from reading.
Yeah.
You know how many road signs I've read where I'm just like, that's where that's at. Okay, go this fast. Great. Awesome.
Since I don't know what road I'm on, I need to follow the sign.
Police car. Slow down. Gotcha. Men's room. Big one. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah. All right. Well, it's we did way longer than I thought, which I'm very happy. It's never a bad thing. I've gone almost 3 hours before on a podcast with one pee break. So we did pretty good. Yeah.
Somehow y'all got through it.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to do this again in the future. We should probably wait a while just so we have something else to talk about. Maybe I'll be, older than 19 by then.
Maybe.
Hopefully so. That'd be cool.
And your birthday's next week?
Yeah, next Saturday, July 12th, every year.
So you're hitting. I just hit a landmark.
Oh yeah.
I just hit 50.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Dude, only a little. It's the pepper to salt ratio is in your favor and your beard. That's good.
I appreciate that.
This is the look I want to go for because obviously I still have hair, so I buzz it to keep it that short. But I'm not.
That's what's in your future.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. I've gone voluntarily bald before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once I did it and it was okay, I was like.
Well, because I had a ponytail before I had a buzz cut.
Yeah.
Anyone remember that?
Yeah.
It's fine if you don't. I prefer you didn't.
I do not remember.
Well, it was. I wore.
Yeah.
You guys know me wearing hats most of the time.
Yeah.
Which is because what happened was I had hair in front for so long. Then I was like, well, if I would tie it back at home so it wouldn't break out my forehead from acne.
Right.
And then I would just keep doing that. And then it got long enough where I could just pull it back. And then I was like, this is actually kind of a look. Wish I could slap that boy in the face and be like, hey, man, just get a buzz cut before it's too late, before people start remembering forever, before those photos.
Speaking of hair,
Yeah.
Max
Tell me about it.
used to look like Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. Hey, do you know who Jay and Silent Bob are?
I'm about to find out.
You need to look it up.
Jay and Silent Bob. Hold on. Because I feel
Look
like
up Jay and Silent Bob, and then make sure you find a picture of Jay in a beanie.
Oh, you nailed it. Yeah. I'll have to post that.
He hasn't had that hair. He has gorgeous hair. He has beautiful
and
hair.
if he'd washed it, it'd be even better. He doesn't like to wash it that often. He's like, yeah, I got Corey water all over it. I'm like, that's why you should wash it, dude.
And those movies are really funny, wildly inappropriate. So we would not,
Sure, but we're all
we
adults.
would not encourage you to.
I know all the words.
Yeah.
Wildly inappropriate.
All right,
They
I'll take
are
a
wildly
screenshot of that. Yeah, you guys nailed that. Fantastic. Yeah, I think this is the most I've ever talked about Max in an episode before. That's very nice.
He's going to feel important after.
Yeah,
Maybe that will be the motivation for him to sit down and do a podcast.
If he listens to this, I'll be like, "Where's Max at? This is not my brother. He just not that he doesn't support what I do. It's just more like he just isn't gonna have the patience to listen an hour and 20 in.
He doesn't sit at work and have his AirPods in and listen to your podcast.
Of course, no. My cousin Charlie does. Shout out Charlie. He's gonna hear this. He'll be at work probably with me. He's the one who got me my job.
Good job, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks. He actually goes by Charles now. Because he got in the drum line after I did, and so I would go to his competition sometimes, like see his stuff, and then I would be like talk to some of his classmates. Hey, where's Charlie at? They're like, do you mean Charles? I'm like, do you mean the guy I've had baby pictures with since 2006? Yeah, I mean Charlie. Show me where he's at. Show me, Mr. Schumar, where's he at? And so shout out Charles.
That's right. Living here my whole life, when I was little, it was always Davey.
So Mr. Moscript still called.
I call him Big Luke.
Big
I don't know if he likes that or not.
But yeah, people who have known me since I was little bitty. Yep, you get the occasional Davey. Still.
That's fun. Mr. Knuckles.
Yeah, so Big Luke, per you, calls Mr. Knuckles.
That's pretty fun. That's pretty good. I feel like we could talk for so much longer, but to make these digestible, I keep it like right around hour 40 if we ever get there. So thank you guys again for doing it.
And there's a poker game that
That's true.
To get started.
Yeah, so. I'm not losing money tonight. Don't worry. I have other places to be. I'm gonna go chat with them. Be like, hey, thanks for being. Because I'm sure everyone was like, what's all that weird noise? Those claws on the ground. I'm like, yeah, that was Roscoe. But people were being very respectful of the podcast. I'm gonna go make sure I thank them for that because that was they didn't have to do that, but they did. So.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Cooper actually looked in the window. He was about ready to explode in and be
It'd
himself.
Be like Kramer. That's good. Kramer Bob. All right, well, I thank you guys again. This is I've thought about doing this. You guys were on the top of my list for sure. I was like, because also you guys were just like, let him come over. This is do this little radio show. You got actual microphones.
I know.
You're a pro.
I feel very official.
I try my best.
I mean, I've been on WCBK before where they just stick a phone up there and you just have to talk into the phone.
You're telling me I'm better than WCBK right now?
There you go.
Wow. I was on WCBK in 3rd grade when I was singing at the elderly home in 2013, and I told the whole county my name and the grade I was in. That was my debut, my radio debut.
Aww.
Yeah.
What grade were you in?
I was 3rd grade. I think I was like 8. I don't know. But it was the first time I'd ever been around a microphone where I spoke into it, and then I know kids were already all the way up here.
Right.
Yeah, it's whatever. All right, well. Till next time, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Absolutely. It's been so informative. I can't wait to re-listen to this in a few years. All right. See you next week.